Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Alex Vynokur, CEO of BetaShares, to discuss the Australian ETF market and the BetaShares Nasdaq-100 ETF. Alex, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Great to talk to you, Jill.
And Alex, being the ETF leader in the local market, tell us more about your expertise on how the Australia ETF product and market trends are developing.
Look, Jill, like everywhere else in the world, ETFs are continuing to attract a significant amount of attention from various parts of the Australian market. So on the one hand, we're seeing significant growth in adoption from the self-directed retail investors. And 2020 has really been a watershed year in that regard in Australia. And at the same time, we are seeing more and more advisors allocating a significant portion of client portfolios towards ETFs.
What are the market opportunities and challenges? What is the strategy in the local market and your plan in the APAC region?
Look, first and foremost, Australian market, like many other markets around the world, suffers from a phenomenon we sometimes call the home country bias. So a significant portion of domestic portfolios is still over-allocated, to the domestic market. What ETFs really bring to Australian investors is an opportunity to diversify, to obtain exposure to growth by accessing some of the opportunities globally. So in the case of a number of BetaShares ETFs, and that's been proven year after year over the past decade, a significant portion of investor assets that are allocated towards ETFs are allocated towards diversification in overseas markets. And I would say a very similar phenomenon we are observing in the broader Asia-Pacific region.
And Alex, I'd like to congratulate you on being BetaShares Nasdaq-100 ETF hitting the Australian dollar 1.6 billion assets under management milestone. Why is the product so popular in the Australian market?
Great question. Several reasons, I'll say. First and foremost, the domestic Australian market is very much skewed towards the financials and materials resources industry. Australian domestic market is quite underweight growth in technology, healthcare, and a number of other sectors, which are actually quite well represented in the Nasdaq-100. So in many ways, the Nasdaq-100 and the ETF that we're managing in Australia, NDQ, is a really great complement for the domestic investor in being able to round out their exposure.
And Alex, to wrap up here, how do you see the collaboration and partnership between BetaShares and Nasdaq?
Look, Nasdaq and BetaShares have been partners for a number of years. What started with a collaboration around the Nasdaq-100 ETF has now broadened quite significantly, and we are managing a number of ETFs which are benchmarked to Nasdaq indices. There is a great deal of familiarity that Australian investors have with Nasdaq indices, and from our perspective, the partnership is continuing to grow very strongly, and we're looking forward to building the momentum behind it.
All right, Alex, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.
Great, thank you.